What is discourse? Definition and types. Discourse definition. Discourse is another word for written or spoken communication. The term is a broad one that has slightly different definitions depending on the discipline in which it is used. In literature, discourse refers to a presentation of thought through language. Discursive language typically contains long, detailed sentences that address a specific subject in a formal manner. Discourse comes from the Latin discursus, which means, a running about. This illustrates the basic idea of relaying information through the natural rhythm and flow of language. Types of literary discourse. Generally speaking, any time someone uses language to communicate, they're utilizing discourse. The job of the writer, then, is one that primarily relies on discourse to tell stories, share ideas, and disseminate information. Essentially, without discourse, there would be no literature. Not all discourse is the same, however, and literary scholars break it down into four main types: argument, description, exposition, and narration. Argument. An argument is an attempt to convince the reader through logic and reasoning. The writer will make a specific claim and then present evidence that supports that claim. For example, academic essays employ argumentative discourse to persuade readers about the truth of an overarching thesis. Description. Description is a sensory experience for the reader, one that aims to help them develop clear mental images of the information presented. Novels, short stories, and poems depend on the power of description to entertain and move readers. Exposition. Exposition informs the audience of a certain fact but doesn't seek to influence the audience's opinion of that fact. Expositional discourse is neutral in language and tone to avoid persuading or stirring emotion in the reader. Its purpose is purely informational. News stories and other journalistic writings, as well as comparative analyses and other research-oriented literature, commonly utilize exposition. Narration. Narration is the written commentary that presents the story to the reader. Put another way, it is the voice of the storyteller. Narration engages the reader through compelling language that elicits emotion and empathy and keeps the reader turning the page. Narration is a cornerstone of novels, short stories, and some plays. Other schools of thoughts break literary discourse down into the categories of expressive, poetic, and transactional discourse. Expressive. Expressive discourse reflects the emotions of the writer. Its focus is on generating and discussing ideas, with little or no emphasis on concrete facts or attempts to persuade others of a central argument. Works of expressive discourse are always nonfiction. Diaries and journals, blogs, and memoirs are all examples. Poetic. Poetic discourse is a highly creative approach to fictional writing. The writer presents thoughts, feelings, events, places, and characters in imaginative, sometimes rhythmic, language that appeals to readers' emotions. Poetic discourse emphasizes theme, imagery, and feelings. It is a central component of poetry but is also evident, to some degree, in most novels and short stories. Transactional. Transactional discourse is less of a literary approach and more of an instructional one. It lays out a clear action or plan, typically in an active voice, that compels the reader to act. Advertising and marketing writing, instruction manuals, and business correspondence are all common sources of transactional discourse.